Hello, welcome to the paint stream. So tonight, what we're going to be doing is working on an acrylic painting based on a sketch I did in a previous stream. So what it's going to be is it's going to be a cup of tea with daisies or flowers surrounding it, and this is going to be done in acrylic. And it's going to have like wet paint applied on top of dry paint. Now the thing with acrylic paint is, this is the kind of interesting part about acrylic paint, is that once acrylic paint dries onto a canvas, it's waterproof. It can't actually rub off, unlike with watercolor or gouache paint. I think the only way to get dried acrylic paint off a canvas is acetone, which we're not going to be needing to do that, because if we do make any mistakes, we can just paint over it with more paint. But, so, there's going to be two primary colors used in this painting, and this may take multiple sessions, so you'll have to kind of hang around the stream to see the completed painting, probably. But, let's take a look at the color wheel real quick. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to be using two complementary colors, orange and blue. See, they're directly across from each other on the color wheel. So, and that's the reason why I'm going to do this is because if you apply orange paint to blue paint, it'll it kind of depend on what ratio of orange to blue you add. It'll either darken the orange or darken the blue. And the same thing holds true if you apply blue and orange paint onto a canvas. If I start adding in shades, if I start doing the shading with orange or blue, it's going to, when I apply the opposite color later on top of it, it's going to already have that shading to it. And then, in order to kind of give it that photorealistic look, what we'll be doing is lightening the color and adding highlights. So, what I'm going to do to get started, of course, is I'm going to go ahead and start painting, maybe coloring in the area around the cup and the plate first, and then kind of start working on the flowers and the other elements. So the first part of this session is going to be laying down the shading. And I'm going to be doing that first with some burnt sienna. I'm also going to be putting down some medium, just to kind of use that to wash out some of the paint. So I'm not applying just like direct, like raw paint from the tube onto the canvas. Kind of want to keep at this stage, kind of keep the paint watery. And I'm going to be using a flat brush to start off with, just to kind of block in some color. So I'm going to have the light coming in from the front of the cup. So I'm going to start shading in, or applying shade to the areas surrounding. And then I'm just going to kind of keep a lot of this loose at first. Hope everyone's having a very good weekend so far. When you're first starting off in acrylic painting, or any kind of painting really, it's going to come off a bit awkward at first. But the important part is to kind of keep with it until you finish it. Because when you finish the painting, it's going to look you know, 9 times out of 10 it's gonna look really good. If anyone's seen the stream before, I probably mentioned that I first started off oil painting, like a wet-on-wet oil painting technique, similar to Bob Ross. I learned a lot of painting techniques from Bob Ross. Acrylic painting techniques are completely different from wet-on-wet oil techniques, however, and that's because oil paint dries a lot faster than, acrylic paint dries a lot faster than oil paint does. What would normally be days or maybe even a week with oil can be dry like within 5 minutes on an acrylic painting. So a lot of those Bob Ross techniques simply won't work with acrylics or watercolor, or which I think it's not an oil-based painting, to be honest. And in that sense, oil painting tends to be a little bit more forgiving in terms of mistakes, but if you stick with acrylics, you can actually come up with some pretty decent effects. You just have to be a little bit more mindful that you might not be able to get the same kind of like blending and gradients you could with the oil. And in case you're wondering, the cup itself is gonna be like a very light blue, but we'll be lightening that up as we go. So, and before I started the stream, by the way, I took the liberty of sketching the design I wanted onto the canvas, kind of spare you the boring details of that. I also applied two layers of acrylic gesso to the canvas to give it more of a springy texture. A lot of these, like store-bought canvases, they can be a little saggy, so I put a little bit of a couple layers of gesso onto it. Flat brush, the acrylic flat brush is actually very good for blocking in areas of color and being a little looser with it. At this stage, we can kind of afford that. We can afford to be a little looser. Let's see. That's not looking too bad so far. Kind of happy with that. These areas behind the cup are probably going to be a little bit darker. Now I know this paint, I mentioned that we're going to be darkening the blue, the places that would be light and blue with orange. And I use a burnt sienna, which is like a brownish color. But that is because brown is really just a darker shade of orange. At least that's how it behaves. So this is going to be okay. It's still a little watery, so I can push this around, make it a little bit smoother. It doesn't really matter that much at the moment, but just to kind of be a little bit more eye-pleasing. It's gonna be kind of a neat painting. It's actually, like I said, it'll look pretty cool, but the interesting part about it, it's actually just gonna be two shades, shades of just two colors. There's not gonna be a lot of any other shades like red or blue or anything like that. Not really. If I choose to add any of that, it'll be very sparingly. Go ahead and wash this brush off real fast. Don't want to leave any. If I'm not going to use a brush immediately for a bed, I'm just going to go ahead and rinse off the excess paint and just kind of set it to the side. Because I think I'm going to move over into a smaller filbert brush and start shading in or adding some shading to the flower petals, which again, the flower petals are going to be roughly the same shade as the cup itself. little fun bit here. Wipe off some of the excess paint. Yeah, so we can afford to be a little loose at the moment. We're just adding indications of shading. We're not going to add a lot of shading all over petals. Really just kind of want to make it look like the shadows are coming from center, receding back a little bit. The edges of the petals at the top are going to be hit with more light, and there's not going to be a lot of shading down here. Not really. If we choose to add some later, like that'll probably be when we start blocking in color for the petals themselves. Head and add a little bit more here just to kind of give it a little bit of 3 dimensions. And if we feel like the shadows on the flowers are too strong, we can always walk that back later in additional steps. Even this stage is almost like sketching, except for sketching with paint. Sketching with paint. Gentlemen, I think we have a name for what this technique is. I think when I first started painting acrylic painting, I actually struggled to find a technique that I liked. Some techniques that just didn't work for me. I know I tried painting it like I said, like I was doing oil painting, trying to get some smooth blending techniques going in, but it just weren't working for me. And a lot of YouTube tutorials I found were just, well, I don't know. It's not really working for me. A lot of them are just kind of like, you know, supposedly fast ways to paint a night sky. If I wanted to paint a night sky, I'd just go back to oils. I already can do a landscape painting in oil. I was looking for something totally different. I already had my own way of doing that. Let's see. I'm not really liking the way this looks exactly. There we go. Just kind of clean it up a little bit. But like I said, you don't gotta be too nervous right now. In fact, never be nervous when you're painting. This is fun. This is for fun. And a few mistakes here or there, most people will generally not notice. You have to have some pretty hardcore critics if they notice every little mistake you make. Your paintings don't have to be like 100% one-to-one photorealistic per se. I mean, if that's the style you're going for, and that's the technique, you know, the technique level you're at, by all means, go for it. But if you're just kind of casually painting, you know, there's nothing wrong with like going for something a little bit more impressionistic. I mean, part of the reason why hyper-realistic painting kind of fell out of style in the art world was due to the onset of the camera. So they already have a way of capturing photorealistic images. It's called a camera. It's called photography. It is important to have kind of a firm understanding of how light kind of plays in an image. I'll give them that. Part of the reason why sometimes AI generated images look a little wonky is that lighting is sometimes a bit inconsistent. You can always tell when you're looking at AI. The lighting's all over the map. And that's because the computer just simply doesn't understand lighting, I'm afraid. It's really something that I don't think you can... It's going to take a long time in order to program that in. I really shouldn't worry too much about the background at the moment, since I'm actually going to go in with a darker color for the background. But we're just kind of playing. I want to just go ahead and block in the shadows for the flowers, even if I'm probably going to go back over all of this a bit. I'm going to go ahead and start blocking in the background with a bit of burnt umber, which is some medium. And since I'm going to be blocking in larger areas of color, I'm going to be using my flat brush. So, let's see. Go ahead and get started on that. And the reason why I'm doing this is that the wooden areas of the table are actually going to be a dark blue, kind of a dark blue grayish color. I kind of keep the strokes at the moment perpendicular or horizontal. Yeah, horizontal. Because I want this to kind of have when I start applying the actual background color to it, I want it to kind of have a sort of wooden texture. It's also going to be kind of a dark color, so. It's okay if we kind of go over a little bit of the cup. I mean, we don't want to get crazy with that, but if you go along the edge, I mean, we'll be cleaning that up later, because when we start actually blocking in like solid colors, it is going to be like the background's going to be done first, and then we're going to be moving forward, and probably not be revisiting the background until much later, if at all. If I play my cards right, I won't have to do any kind of real touch-up on the background later on. I mean, again, no promises. I always have the right to change my mind, but at the moment, that's the plan. I'll be a little bit careful around these edges for the moment. I'm going to come back and touch them up later. I really don't want to eat too much into the petals, if I can avoid it. And this particular flat brush might be a bit too broad for that kind of detailed work. Yeah, this particular area's got a lot of texture. Like, not a lot of texture, I mean a lot of details that I'm going to have to be very careful around. So, I'm definitely going to come back in there with a finer brush to make sure that I don't accidentally destroy too much. Even though, like I said, I can paint over the background later, I really want to preserve as many of the flower shapes as I can. Let's go ahead and wipe off this brush. And I'm going to find myself a little bit more of a detailed flat brush. Something a little smaller. I believe I found just the kind of brush I'm looking for. This is a number 4 flat brush. And if I haven't mentioned it already, I think I did, but I might have blanked. The background color is actually burnt umber, which again, even though it is a brown, it's really just like a very dark shade of orange. So by all means, use burnt umber in order to darken up blues, especially. Well, if you're darkening up with a really dark blue. A fact about painting is I rarely actually use like black paint to darken up my colors because it tends to desaturate the color rather than and also like just like actual honest to God black paint looks very unnatural on the canvas, especially if you're going for realism. Even if I'm going to paint a night sky, I usually opt for a very dark Prussian blue. Again, if you want to darken your blues, mix in an orange or a brown instead. I actually think I saw a method for using black and white paint to, like lighten or darken a shade, but I never actually tried it myself. We might try it out sometime if that's of anyone's interest, but. At the moment, I'm not really feeling that experimental, so. Yeah, at the moment, this painting is probably looking a little awkward. It's, like I said, not quite the masterpiece yet. It's in its ugly duckling phase, but eventually it's going to grow into a beautiful, I don't know, goose or whatever the hell the ugly duckling was actually supposed to be. Yeah, it's gonna grow into like a beautiful, like Canadian goose or something. I don't know. Just kind of rest my hand on the. I'm gonna rest my hand on the canvas a little bit. I'm pretty sure the areas that I'm resting my hand on are dry. Pretty sure the background's looking halfway decent. Let me actually just lift this up a little bit, make sure I'm getting the edge. There's one little edge along the left-hand side that I was missing. I don't like to leave some white spots showing too much. I'm actually kind of running out of burnt umber. I didn't put enough down, so I'm going to put down just a little bit more, because I don't think I'm going to be needing burnt umber again for the rest of the, at least the rest of this part. Pretty satisfied with the way that's turned out. I'll go ahead and wash off this brush and save it for later. going to be starting next, coloring in the T areas, the little centers of the flowers. I'm not sure what those are called exactly. There's a little bit of gold trimming along the edges of the cup and of the plate that I'm also going to be blocking in with blue. And then I'll evaluate what I want to do next after that. And what I'm going to be using to block in this these shadows for the T and the flower centers is going to be ultramarine. I'm going to use the smaller flat brush at the moment because I want to start off with the trim around the cup and the plate, and that's going to take like a thinner brush. Where the light is going to be hitting the rim, it's going to be lighter. It's going to be probably more gold than anything else. But I want to kind of show like towards like away from the center, the line getting a bit darker. There's also going to be kind of like a rim on the outside rim of this cup as well. But based on like the position of the cup, you're not going to see it going all the way around. So, yeah, there's going to be a rim on the inside of the cup and then one on the outside too. And again, just like with the other one, I'm kind of make it darker along the edge here. Like I said, it's a little awkward at the moment, but trust me, the payoff will be huge. A little bit of a rim along the bottom of this guy too. So let's go ahead and add him in. And I kind of drew like when I sketched this, I kind of drew that line a little bit too far away from the rim of the cup. So I'm just going to go ahead and make an executive decision and correct that here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start blocking in the areas for the tea itself, which the tea is going to be a nice brownish color. And I'm going to first start off by just adding in little areas around the rim of the flower, so that way when I start blocking in it with a larger brush, I don't have to worry about destroying the flower itself. So I'm actually going to be painting over it with probably a burnt sienna later on. I'm going to do a bit of a wash of burnt sienna over this when I start blocking in the real colors. And those areas are going to become darker in relation to any other part. Okay, I'm going to start adding some a little bit of darker areas to this tea, just so that when I start adding in the tea itself, it'll kind of look like you're seeing like the bottom rim of the cup. Maybe some darker areas around here where the flower is sitting. The flower is kind of casting a darker shadow around it. It's blocking out some of the light. Wash this around a little. Kind of make that line a little less severe. Right? Even though you can't really do like a lot of blending and gradients, you can just kind of keep washing it until eventually it looks like a gradient. You can like make the little separations a little less severe, is what I'm saying. And I think that's kind of giving it some nice depth. And I also want to add a little bit of a darker area around the edge where the tea kind of meets the edge of the cup. Nice. Yeah, kind of. There. Decently happy with that. Let's see. I think what's really going to make this image pop a little bit more is once I start adding centers to the flowers I've done. So let's go ahead and get started with that. I don't know, like I said, I'm guessing that these are daisies based on like the original reference, which I'm not even really looking at anymore. I'm just kind of doing my own thing and kind of making decisions about where I think color should go, and I think things are working out pretty well. I think these are supposed to be daisies, but I'm not a botanist, so I don't know. You tell me what kind of flowers these are supposed to be. Ooh, that one's a little darker than I wanted, but it's not a big deal. We can just kind of spread some of this around and dab out some of that. Yeah, same thing with this one. I'm not really a big fan of how that's turning out. If I want to add some more 3 dimensions and stuff to these, I can wait until this paint's getting a little bit reasonably dry and add some more shading to it then. You can take a dry brush and kind of like wipe off some of the excess if you want. Yeah, and this painting might take like multiple like stream sessions to finish, and that's okay because this painting will take however long it wants, whatever the painting decides. That's what we're going to be going with. I remember Bob Ross videos; they used to like knock these paintings out in like half an hour flat. I'm glad he can do it. I myself am not nearly as quick. Painting though, you're gonna have to be really fast or use some really slow drying acrylics, which I've seen some. I've seen some that were advertised as like slow drying acrylic paint, and I could probably do that sometime and see how that compares versus like the normal wet on wet with oil paint and do kind of a side-by-side comparison. I might do that in the future, but for right now I'm just going to do a wet on dry technique. Something I'm more comfortable with, personally. So, since the center portions of these flowers are probably about dry, more or less, I'm going to go back over them with some more ultramarine, just to kind of give them more of a round, like 3-dimensional shape. Still not sure what the center of flowers are called. It's been a while. It's been a very long time since I've studied anything involving flowers. I just know that's the part that bees land on. It's the bee landing pad. There we go. It's called the bee landing pad. If you got any science teachers out there listening to this stream, fight me. Say something in the chat. Correct me. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me that's not called a bee landing pad. It is supposed to be the part the bees land on. by all means, like teach the world what these things are called. The bee landing pad. We're going to be putting some dimensions to these bee landing pads. So hang tight for a bit. Later, if I feel like the paint's like dry enough, maybe I might even add some little textures to the bee landing pads too. I could probably go back over that with like a pointer brush and maybe add some little details here or there. I think these bee landing pads are looking pretty decent. So I'm going to add a little bit of extra darkness to the rim of, or where the cup meets the edge of the tea, and just add a little bit of extra something to it, and then yeah, we're just gonna, there we go. We're doing it now. Thinking that looks relatively decent for the cup. So I'm going to use a pointy a liner brush to add a little bit of extra details to the rims of the cup and the plate and to the center of the bee landing pads. And then after that, I'm probably going to start adding some more darker areas around the cup itself, because I'm after the burnt sienna started to kind of dry around the cup. I don't know, it looks a little flat when it could look a little bit more three-dimensional, but I'm liking the placement of the shadows, so I think we're on the right track, and we are definitely on our way to starting to block in some of the colors. So we're making some good progress here. This thing's going to start looking good after a bit. So, this is a number 2 pointer brush. We're going to be using this guy to kind of add a few little extra details. This is still in the pre-painting stage. We're not even like in the actual blocking the colors in yet stage. But I'm still doing a bit of like a light shadow exploration. And while we're at it, we might as well just kind of lay in the foundations. Now with a pointer brush, you don't want to go too heavy. This isn't like with a flat brush where you can just kind of go all in. You kind of want to make sure that like just use just the tip of the brush to add in to make your point. Use the tip of the pointer brush to make your point. again, you don't have to go too detailed. Not this stage. I'm just doing it to be just to kind of like laying the foundations. I'm gonna add some little dots and little bits of texture on the bee landing pads. These are like the little footholds that the bees use to get their grip. I don't know. Neither botanist nor entomologist am I. I mean, bees gotta land on something. Gotta get its little footy grips on something, right? Yeah, probably. Right. Alright, so what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to be using a filbert brush. I'm going to be using a filbert brush to start adding some more darkened areas around the cup and the petals. Just to kind of, just because after I've added in the table and the tea, the lines, the bee landing pads, I'm realizing that the plate and the cup itself is looking a little neglected, a little flat. So let's go ahead and add as much love to the cup and the teacup and the plate as we have everything else before we start moving on to any other interesting stuff. So we'll start off by going in behind the cup and adding some like particularly dark, shadowy areas. Make some more contrast behind the cup to really make it pop. That's kind of nice thing about the filbert brush is that it's got kind of a rounded edge, so you can kind of get in there in those like little areas, and also just kind of brush upwards with an upward swoop and clean up some of the brush strokes. Although there's nothing wrong with having some brush strokes in your painting, because I mean your painting is made of brush strokes. every painting is made out of tiny brush strokes from a variety of brushes. So don't be too concerned about, oh, there's a brush stroke showing up in the painting. Yeah, that's because you use a brush to make the painting. Turns out that's a thing that will happen. You'll see the brush stroke showing up if you look close enough at any painting. I mean, if you look close enough at anything, you look close enough at somebody, you'll notice that they're made up of cells. So, brush strokes are like the cells of a painting. Like I said, you can kind of go in a little softer with your filbert brush and kind of make some softer areas. I think that handle is starting to really pop up against kind of popping up, you know, like it's not looking like it's like flat, like stuck to the plate. It's like above the plate now. It's closer to the viewer, and that's the way it should be. Go over to the other side of the cup and do the same kind of thing. Just kind of darken up this area here. This cup's starting to look a little bit more three-dimensional now, ain't it? It's looking a little less flat, a little bit more like it's sitting on top of a plate instead of like part of the plate. Like the plate and the cup are no longer one entity. Speaking of making the plate and the cup two separate entities, I need to kind of create a little bit of a separation down along this edge here. Maybe not so much of a separation. But I'm going to go over this and sort of soften this area once I wipe off a lot of this excess paint. So let's go ahead and... There we go. I'm going to do the same thing to kind of, maybe not to such a harsh degree. Let's go ahead and wipe off some of this excess paint onto my palette and kind of go in here and sort of soften up this area. Just darken it up a little bit, but not too much. A little bit on this side too. The edge around the inside of the cup to also be a little bit darker, to make it a little bit more of a rounded shape. So let's go ahead and do that too. I'm going to wipe off some of the excess paint here because I don't want to drag around a lot of extra paint. There we go. And that's looking pretty decent. I think now it is time to start concentrating a bit on the flowers. So I'm going to use a smaller filbert brush, however. Smaller filbert, smaller filbert. Something. That is not even. I don't even know if that's a filbert, to be honest. Yeah, this one looks pretty small. Let's see, how big was this guy? How big was that? Was a number 8 filbert. This is number 6 filbert. Yeah, that's smaller. Scientific studies have shown that 6 is smaller than 8. So, this looks like a smaller filbert to me. Go ahead and soften that up a little bit with some water and grab me some paint and start getting in there. Yeah, you know what? I want to make this a little bit darker. Wouldn't worry too much about like these edges along the side of the flower at the moment. Like I said, a lot of this will be covered up by a light blue paint later on. So. Alright. Pretty satisfied with a lot of what I'm seeing here. I might use my pointer brush to add some little line details to the petals, and then I will probably go ahead and start moving on to potentially blocking in the background. And with this, I'm just going to use the pointer brush and then do kind of an upward swish as I'm going outwards. So the lines are actually going to be kind of coming from the center out. We had a little bit of separation here and there between the petals. That's the thing, is you don't really need to go too heavy, and you don't really have to go too hard into paint to get like the effect you're looking for. Just kind of gently lay out some lines. I'm gonna go ahead and shift this a little bit closer to my hand. Makes it a little less awkward for me when I'm reaching out. Find that you're accidentally grabbing a little too much paint when you do this, wipe some of that extra paint off onto a paper towel. Don't try to just power through. Use that paper towel to your advantage. Pretty satisfied with the underpainting at the moment. So I believe that it is now officially time to start doing some overpainting. If this is the underpainting, we're going to actually start doing the painting. So I'm going to go ahead and figure out color I want. So I'm probably going to go with like a cobalt blue mixed with a bit of Payne's gray. Probably more blue than gray. So, for the moment, I'm going to go with maybe this proportion of blue and gray. Like, not a whole lot, but just enough to darken the blue, as I don't want to just like have a straight bluish color. And I might actually add a little bit of my leftover burnt sienna as well, because I kind of want to desaturate a little bit of this blue. I don't ever really want to go in with like just straight from the tube paint. I want to mix it a little bit. So let's see. How do I feel about this? I'll mix it a little bit of medium because I kind of want this glaze at the moment. again, just like when I was laying in the base color, I want to do it as horizontally as I can, because I want to retain a bit of a wooden texture to it. Let's go ahead and kind of edge this a little bit. Do a little bit of there. Again, if I go over the cup just a little bit, it's not that big of a deal because I am going to be going over that area later. The cup is going to be in front of the background, so by the time I get to the cup, I'm going to be done with the background. As much as I want to try to get that part perfect, it's not always come out that way. And I think you'll probably notice that this is pretty dark. I'm kind of working from kind of starting off just a very dark kind of color. And I may go over this again with some streaks of lighter color, but I also kind of want the background itself to be somewhat dark, because I want a lot more emphasis on the cup and the flowers than I do the background. So, and like I said, I'm kind of careful around the edges because I'm going to kind of go back over them a bit. I don't have to be super careful because like I said, I'm going to be going like this is the background is going to be like the foreground, like the background elements. These things are going to be on top, and I'll work on them a bit. But I also really don't want to like eliminate my flowers. I worked hard on getting these references in, and I don't want to just like obliterate them either. So yeah, this is a mixture of cobalt blue, Payne's gray, and burnt sienna. So it's kind of a pretty dark color, honestly. I'm going to change my orientation slightly so I can have a better angle at painting some of this in. it comes to painting around the flowers, I'm going to be a little bit more careful. So I'm not going to be using this humongous brush. I'm going to go ahead and wipe a lot of this off. Just because I might end up using this brush later for something. Although, from looking at this, I don't really see a lot of places where I'm going to be walking in that kind of color, in that volume. Let's see. Yeah, this one should be okay. So the areas between the petals right here, those gaps are very thin, so I'm going to use a very small flat brush. A lot of my brushes I previously put out are kind of rolling a bit, so I'm going to put those off to the side at the moment. And think the color I mixed it's a little too brown for my tastes. Like I said, it's not a bad background color, but it is not my vision. So I'm going to be going over this with a glaze of cobalt blue in a bit. Because my vision was that this table is really more of a, like a blue slate gray kind of thing, not a dark brown. And like I said, it's not a bad background color at all, not really. But again, it's just not what I'm looking for. Kind of want to make the background a little cooler. Thing that part was pretty much dry. My hand rested on it. Okay. Flip this around. You know, I think I want to add a few light liner streaks along the horizon, yeah, just horizontal line streaks around here, just to kind of give the table a little bit more of a wooden texture. And I'm probably, rather than lightening it with white, I'm actually going to use a bit of Naples yellow. But not a whole terrible amount. A little bit of this will really kind of give it the effect I'm looking for. And again, not really gonna go crazy with it, hopefully. I mean, we'll find out, I suppose. Use my flat brush to kind of like add in a few like little lines, you know, little streaks here and there. Soften that up a bit. Slash in a few little things here. Try not to touch anything, like try not to touch any of the flowers when I do this. Not that, like I said, at this stage it doesn't really matter that much. As I've said previously, I'm going to apply a blue glaze to the background, because I don't want this to be brown. I want this to be blue. So what I'm going to go is I'm going to grab my cobalt blue. So it doesn't have to be a whole lot of it either. And since this is a glaze, I'm just going to apply some medium to it. Make that nice and watery. Hopefully this will be dry enough. cobalt blue looks a little too bright. I mean, when I apply it to the canvas, it's probably gonna not be nearly as like vivid. What does it look? How does it look? I think as long as I keep it kind of thin, it gets the point across. Yeah. Let's see. I think I might. So I'm going to put down a layer of this cobalt blue first to it. And then I might add another glaze to it of Payne's Gray, because this blue is starting to look a little too blue, to be honest. That's okay. You can add a glaze on top of a glaze. Definitely starting to look a little bit more like what I was initially envisioning, but I think the Payne's Gray is going to be important. I think it's really going to be the important part. So let's add a secondary glaze of Payne's Gray on top of this. But yeah, I definitely wanted the background to be a lot cooler than it was when I had just like that brownish color. There we go. Yes. That's the background I was looking for. It's like a dark, it is almost black. It is almost black, but with a highlight of blue in it. You can definitely see the blue. And like I said, it's a very dark background, but I really want my teacup and flowers to stand out against this background.
Let me show you something. Why didn't you?
We'll get a little bit more detail with the glaze in a minute when I start. But this is a pretty broad brush, so yeah, paint with a broad brush, and I want to go into something a little more detailed around the flower petals, and then from there, I'll start planning out what I want to do next. finer flat brush to block in the glaze around the flowers. That's another thing I like about acrylic paint versus oil paint is that it's a lot easier since these paints are water soluble, at least while they're still wet. This is one of the reasons why you gotta clean your brushes early and often. As long as the paint is still wet, you can wash it off with water. But as stated earlier, acrylic paint doesn't reactivate once it's dry with the introduction of like more water. You can reactivate watercolor gouache with water, but you can't do the same thing with acrylic. When it is dry, it is waterproof. The only way to remove dry acrylic paint from brushes or surfaces is acetone, which it's basically nail polish remover. You gotta use nail polish remover to get this stuff off the canvas. But yeah, make sure to clean your brushes after each use. Don't let the paint dry on any of these. You will, because you're going to have to use nail polish remover to get that off there. So, friendly hint. Let's go ahead. I want to go ahead and start adding little details around, with this finer brush, around the petals. Again, it's okay if you go over the petals slightly, but don't just like destroy the petals entirely, because you are going to need these little details later on when it's time to start painting them in. You want to remember where your petals are supposed to be. But yeah, you can also do a little bit of cleanup. Like I said, it doesn't really matter at this point. But I like to kind of keep as much of the painting clean as I can. Let's go ahead and shift this to the left a little bit. I want this painting to be centered in the can. Okay, I want to get in between these little spots here. That could be a little bit of a challenge. And it might touch a little bit of the petals here and there. Not a problem. When it comes time to paint the foreground, that part will be, yeah. Let's go ahead and flip this around. Just kind of slice in a few little wood textures here and there. Like I said, they might look a little vivid at the moment. Yeah, these wood textures might look a little vivid in the moment. I will probably kind of give them a very light glazing in a minute, just to kind of hide the harshness of it. But I do want to have some texture showing. Pretty happy with a lot of this background. So what I'm going to do in the next paint stream session is start working on the plate and the cup, and then as I'm moving forwards, the flowers. As I'm moving forwards, the tea, flowers, the bee landing pads. But yeah, we'll definitely start off with the plate first. So anyway, I hope you've all had a very good time watching this paint stream session. maybe you've learned a few interesting tricks you can apply to your own acrylic paintings. Make sure to hit up my links in my channel description for more content. You can follow me on Instagram, check out my Etsy store, Patreon. So if you see anything else, like I said, if you're interested in following along, checking out more of my artwork, feel free to check out my social media links. And anyway, like I said, hope you've all had as much fun as I have, and just keep on working on this and keep on painting. Everybody have a good night.